Hi everyone, I'm Hannah Huntley with the Wealth Group at Union Savings Bank, and I'm here today with Dianne Gasior, the Head of Treasury Services here at Union Savings. Hi Dianne.
Hello.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good, thanks. Dianne's gonna take a dive into what the Treasury Services team does and how they operate. So can you tell us a little bit about Treasury Services in general?
Of course. Treasury Services essentially enables businesses to know their cash position, the comings and goings of their cash flow. We advise our clients on how to structure their accounts, how to pay their vendors, pay their people, how to sometimes even restructure within the organization the resources that they have, whether that be people, time, access, whatever that is. That's what we do. It's sort of like how you might have a wealth management person take care of your investment portfolio.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we take care of your business accounts and we treat it in such a way. We observe what you've done in the past, where you want to go in the future, and we create custom solutions for you.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So what is the difference between Treasury Services and just cash management?
Great question. So it's kind of semantics. I like to think of cash management as a verb. It's the thing we do, right? You manage your cash. You manage your cash. Treasury services, those are the nouns. Those are the actual services we put in place because within my group, that's what we do. ACH, wire, positive pay, fraud protection. Those are the actual services that we offer. The structure and the advisement, that's the other piece of it.
Right.
So it depends on who you talk to. Out there in the great wide world, most people call it cash management, but within Treasury Services, within the bank, within all banks, we call it Treasury Services. So they're interchangeable. But good question, because everybody asks that question.
Yeah, it's more than just the movement of cash.
Right.
It's the advisory service that comes attached to it, it sounds like. So who would you say is the appropriate client for Treasury Services?
I think it's when in your business, you are at the point where, I like to say this to my clients, congratulations, you're successful, which oftentimes means you need another person to help you with your accounting, right? So you might need to give somebody else access. Well, in Treasury Services, your platforms are different. So we have like multi-users. So you have a company ID, but then you have a user ID, your own specific password, and now you can enable those people to see what you want them to see. Move money maybe only to a certain dollar amount, create complete workflows with approval processes in between because your business has grown. You need to focus on what it is your business is providing to your clients and your community, and you need more help. So that's
relinquishing some of that responsibility to someone who's advised and obviously experienced too.
Right. And it's also sometimes people need it because they don't want to cut checks anymore. We appreciate that, right? So they need a different vehicle to send payments faster. Because again, at the end of the day, the sooner you know your cash position, the sooner you can start strategizing for that next level for your business.
Right.
You can actually have a clear forecast if everything is more timely, seamless, and you can see it all. So
understanding, developing strategies to make your dollars more efficient for you to work in a more efficient manner. So they're not just sitting there. And obviously there's different businesses that have different needs. Can you highlight a little bit about, in your expertise, how one business is different from another?
Oh, absolutely. We have a very diverse portfolio here at USB. And depending on what your business does, really depends on how your account should be structured. For example, my attorneys, my law firms, they have certain accounts that they can't be charged fees on. However, they use those to do a lot of wire transactions. So we have solutions for that, to be able to sweep those elsewhere so that they stay in compliance with the bar, right? That's one example. Another example are my manufacturers. They have days outstanding. They have different agreements with some of their vendors or different agreements with clients. So they have to have so much liquidity on hand.
Right.
But we don't want to have too much of it, right? Because we want to invest some of it,
Right. We want to have the opportunity to utilize those dollars to build income elsewhere in another strategy.
Right. And, and we have, car dealerships, for instance, they have specific needs for their cash flow. Every industry is a little different. We have a lot of municipalities on our books, which is great, but now we have to think they have to answer to a board. These are tax dollars. This is a whole different ballgame, right? So we have vehicles for that as well, and at the end of the day, if you know how much money it takes to operate your accounts because you've made it so streamlined, you can take that capital and either invest it in your business in a different way, invest it elsewhere, whatever it is that you want to do, but you'll know where you stand. And that's when things get really exciting for a client, when they go through the process of the restructure and they're like, I'm spending so little time on my banking now, and I
focus on my business. I can focus on the production.
Right. And it also, in a lot of cases for clients, when they involve their other staff, because they can do so in a safe way, having access to the accounts, now you've created a different level of efficiency as well.
Exactly.
Right. And people feel more empowered to be able to walk out of the door and be able to do approvals on their mobile phones and make that happen, and they're not tethered, right? And you have that sense of security.
That's awesome. That is, it's got to be huge, especially for some of these business owners who have built this legacy up over time. I'm sure maybe they're not as technology advanced as some of these new startups that you've seen too. So there's that blend there.
At the end of the day, my clients are responsible for feeding a lot of people.
Right. Yeah.
Right. My clients have endless responsibilities to their community. And it's something that their, grandmother's grandmother started. It's very personal. What I do has always been very personal. And then you have the person who's like, you know what? I quit my 9 to 5. I bought this plant. And I'm going to do this. Yeah. And that is something that, the risk involved is incredible. And I love those people because I'm like, oh my goodness, can I just be around your energy all the time? But they need a different type of advisement. And also the constant check-ins, the yearly reviews to say, okay, are you getting to where you want? Because I know you said 5 years from now you want to be here.
Right.
So this is what we've been doing. It's working. But what got you here is not necessarily going to get you there. So let's pivot, right? I love what I do, so I could talk about this all day.
It's so helpful because it does relate, obviously, back to the financial planning and some of the future track planning that we've discussed in previous interviews. But it's building that roadmap. This is just for business, and you're still working with a one-on-one advisor where you're still getting that personal communication, that personal accountability, those check-in calls on a quarterly, monthly, sometimes I'm sure too, an annual basis, and you're building out that roadmap. And like most business owners know, I'm sure, there is going to be a lot of pivots. There's going to be a lot of changes. Yes. It's never the straight and narrow. It is the windy, the curvy, the ups and downs of everything. And I think that having someone that can further advise and clarify, this is the path, this is when we need to take a pivot, and this is how we can be more direct with getting to our goal, is unmatched.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I've worked for other FIs in Treasury, and once services are sometimes set up, it's 1-800 help yourself. That is not our model. That is not our culture. I often think sometimes we're not a good fit for a client who wants a plug and play, right?
Right.
Because some of our competition out there, they're just apps, right? I got an app for that. I can pay my people through this app. I can do this. I can do that. That's a different type of client. They're not going to get a lot out of the full relationship, and that's fine for today, but later they may. Right. So it's just keeping that communication open. And I've also had a lot of experience where businesses, it's time to close, right? Yeah. Somebody's retiring, they want to sell the business. Again, congratulations, you've been successful. Exactly. But I know I'm going down to Florida, right? I'm going to go hang my hat. And we help with those succession plans. we help with that unwinding. We help with that, passing of the baton to somebody else. And a lot of times I'll reach out to someone like you and say, hey, this person is thinking about, moving their business along, selling off maybe a piece of it here and there. I need the advice from, wealth to help me so they can parse this out to their family.
Right.
I need help from the commercial team to do this. And it's almost rare at this point that I show up in front of a client alone. I usually have representation from different groups because, at the end of the day, it's personal. And somebody's business, they've put everything into it. People have hurt their health through their business, relationships,
right?
All sorts of things people sacrifice to make their businesses happen. You can't lose sight of that. You have to understand that you need all those different facets to make it happen. And we offer all of those things here at Union with the addition of we're all advisors about this. We're all experts in our field. There's no widgets.
Right.
So
awesome.
That's my spiel.
I think it's important to highlight too the fraud protection piece that you had highlighted. Are those some of probably the hardest conversations that you have to have? And it's so prevalent right now that I think we should highlight it.
Yes. So fraud is the hardest conversation to have because typically I'm having it after fraud has already happened. I do try to have these conversations beforehand, but people, everybody thinks it's not going to be them.
Yep.
So the reason why it's difficult to talk about is because it really is a two-part situation. I look at what kind of transactions are you making, right? And where are your vulnerabilities, right? And I have a service for that. Okay, plug and play. Do it. Put the service on. But it's the behavioral piece that people have a hard time digesting. Is when I say, I know you trust all your employees, I know you trust all your people, but there are ways to put parameters around what people can access, how much money they can move, how aware you are of it, how much you can participate in that, checks and balances of it all that sometimes we're like, oh, they would never. And I hate to say it, the call often comes from inside the house.
Wow.
So there are really elegant ways, really sophisticated ways to prevent those things from happening or catch if they might be happening that are not invasive, right? They're not offensive to your employees or the people you do business with. It's just a matter of being able to go in and a client being open to talking about it without it seeming like, I'm being suspicious.
Yeah.
But you can sleep well at night. And what happens is those around you that have access to your capital, they know it's there, right? And if they're smart, they know why it's there.
Yeah.
But in today's world, you have to do that. Because again, at the end of the day, you're responsible for feeding so many people and so many families. You would hate to say, oh my gosh, this happened now, I can't make payroll.
Right.
And I've seen that happen.
Oh,
and that's devastating. So that is the hardest conversation to have, mainly because it's usually after something happens. It's a very easy conversation to have before it happens, right? Because people, there's no blood in the water, if you will.
Right.
So, yeah, fraud is very prevalent. It's very sad, and it does interrupt your business in more ways than one.
Better to get in front of it too,
right?
With things like positive pay and things like that can possibly avoid this approval system that you're saying. It makes it. Some of your services make it very easy to have that extra protection, as it's only going to get worse.
And it's
let's
customized.
Be honest.
Yes, no, it is only getting worse, and it's customized. That's what's great about our services. On one account, you might need like full tilt, everything on it, right? On another account, you're only writing so many checks, but we have a service that will make you aware of those without a daily monitoring.
Right.
If you have 2 employees, that might be one way, like one set of services that we provide. If you're a sole proprietor, there might be another way to do that.
Right.
Because we understand when we walk in, you have a finite amount of time and resources to focus on your banking.
Exactly.
And we work with you. I have some clients who have 30 people in their finance department. I have some clients who it's them.
Yeah.
And they're doing everything in their business, right? So we keep that in mind. You know, the fraud protections aren't there to hinder your day-to-day.
Right.
They're to protect what it is that you're doing, what you earned.
Insurance on your business at the end of the day.
Yes, it is insurance on your business.
I think. Awesome. Well, thank you very much. I know that was very, very high level in everything, the variety of things that you cover. So if anybody has any further questions for Dianne or the rest of her team, please feel free to reach out directly to her. Her information is down below here, or feel free to reach out to me directly, and we can see how the Treasury Service team fits in your plan. Thank you so much. Take care.